And we are live. Hello and welcome to the This Week in the Tech Boy podcast. Today is October 19th, 2024, and I have so much to get to today, so let's get into it.
Hello and welcome to The Tech Boy, This Week in Tech podcast. Hello and welcome to
Hi, hello everybody, and welcome back again. We have so much to get to today. I'm just going to read off the notes from what we have here today, and also talk about the headlines. The headlines that are coming in on TheTechBoy.org. Also, we have a new SSA LTW. Wow, we already have someone watching. Have a new SSA LTW story already. So, if you're a fan in the chat, make sure you send in some messages here. All right, let's see what we have to talk about today. I need to search through. I'm looking through the topics for today. Let's see. That's just a movie idea, images, handwriting notes, X, Sienna, God, Gemini. Hmm. Well, they're not here right now, but I do remember that we do have this one thing that I have to talk about, and this the Nokia N95, which is honestly one of the best phones from 2006, 2007. Got a Blender port on Symbian in 2024 before the any Android or iOS phone got it. So I have to show you this video. I guess it will lead me into my monologue about like really what are we doing with our technology devices? What are we doing with our devices? But here we go. First, let's do headlines from TheTechBoy.org. So the Department of Justice gets testy with Google. I just used AI to create an article and then talk about how the DOJ was trying to kind of break up the rule and how I didn't like that. So we talked about that last week on the podcast episode. So this is a clip if you guys want to see this. And then we have SSA LTW getting imported into Google Notebook LLM. Amazing. We'll talk about that. And Grok versus Meta AI. So let's talk about that first. Grok being X's AI actually generated this image for me. I think it really looks good because it has the X image there, and then you have the the Meta Instagram esque colors. They're a bit more colorful than X tends to be. X is a bit more black. So Grok versus Meta AI. Meta AI is across the Meta services, so Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp. It's just getting put into throughout all the chats, and then of course Grok get to pay for. So here's the question and answers that I asked it, and we can get into what do you think? If you think which one's actually better. So facts as who the United States president is. Both said it was Joe Biden with Grok and Instagram both saying that. I didn't time it. It was basically the same time. So they both got it tighter. Then we talked about the Texans win-loss record. This was last week. I did the article on Sunday, posted it on Monday. And X was a bit more updated, saying 5-1 instead of 4-1, counting their win over the Patriots. So Grok pulled ahead there. And then I asked for a chart of the United States of America. And, and you'll see later down, Meta's format is not as good, but it give me the correct answers of the 10 largest states of the union. Alaska, of course, being number one, but this is what God gave me. And then you zoom in, I know it's a bad quality image. It's not useful. I mean, yes, this is big, this is big, this is big, but you don't even have Montana here, which is the fourth largest state. Alaska is colored green, Hawaii is colored green. So the chart is completely inaccurate. So it just generated some weird image there. And then I did a simple word math problem. I asked a Bible question. It did well. So Grok did win, though. Instagram did get me the correct answer there. So when you talk about coding, coding took longer on Grok, but the output was better. So as you have this special coding interface here for, it's for coding, right? And you have Python code, right, which this is from Meta. It was harder to copy and select. I had to actually, do a little bit more work when I was copying and pasting it in to my phone. And when I tested it out and kind of like debug it, like figuring out what to copy and what not to copy, both of them worked well. Both of them did what they were supposed to do instantly. It's a powerful phone, so it doesn't really matter. All right, now image generation technology. So this is Grok's image. I asked for the Texas flag. This is actually the Texas flag. This looks like something that can go on a wall here. And here you have a weird uh, Tennessee-esque flag, except Tennessee is kind of circular, maybe Arkansas, I'm not sure. But if you see this image here, and of course it's high quality when you generate the, notice how there's no watermark or anything, though you do get a watermark right there in the corner. And also it's a bit, way more accurate. I mean, you both have a star, but that is not what the Texas flag looks like. And I asked for a map of the United States of America in red and all the other countries in black. Matter didn't do it. Grok only drew the United States, so both failed there. And the last for a realistic picture of a cell phone, both of them were really bad. They weren't really worth showing. They were in the original article, but then it got deleted, so I was like, whatever. When I asked for a pixelated car image, this is Meta. Grok did not do as well creating the theme, the pixelated theme. So good on Meta for that as well. So I think they're tied right now in terms of image generation technology. Both of them don't really do well for aspect ratios, but for like phone wallpapers, I talked to tell it's aspect ratio, but Meta did well. I do like Grok's image generation technology, a bit less into than the other one. So yeah. All right. So let's talk about. Oh yeah, Grok knows who I am. Meta doesn't. So Grok seems to have won a little bit overall. Though Meta is doing well, and I wouldn't really give the win to Grok because Grok you have to pay for. Meta is embedded in any Meta service application that you want to use for now. So let's talk about the Blender CAD application. So as you guys know, Blender is a 3D modeling software designed for computers and has animation and technology here. And the Nokia N95 was a phone from a long time ago. I think it's 2006. Let me check. It's one of the best, like most beloved phones of all time. It was released with a 3G network announced in September 2006. So this phone is 18 years old as of recording time. From release time, and someone released a new application for it on Symbian. And when I was watching the video, I actually learned that Symbian had a sort of desktop mode, or at least the Nokia 95 had a sort of desktop mode where it could output to an external display, just like Dex or my Ready 4. So that's really interesting. So let's check out this video. It's in Spanish.
Hola, muy buenas a todos.
I'm going to mute the screen. I'm going to mute the screen because I don't think you guys speak Spanish. I'm just going to show off what this thing can do.
En este video les quería...
So as you can see here, this is the he's actually outputting it to a display, so you can see his CAD here. This is what Blender really looks like in real life. I think this is some Linux distribution there. So here is Blender CAD. Here we go. This is running all on the N95. There's a keyboard and mouse connected to it. Remember the N95. Let's bring up the specs. I'm going to bring up the specs here. All right, this is from GSM Arena, which is a really good website. And all right, here we go. So yeah, he has some VM program working that's getting like some games and stuff. And here is the 3D design. So yeah, it's in Spanish, but you can see there's the monkey. I think it has a specific name. You can do some 3D modeling stuff here. You can, as you can see with the caption saying, move the vertices, extrude them, add some more function. He's going to add some more functions into the application. I don't have an N95 to test it out, nor do I have a Symbian ROM to put onto my Symbian emulator for my phone. So I cannot test this out to see for you. But I mean, isn't this interesting? This is really interesting how this guy all by himself was able to develop a 3D CAD application for an operating system that's been dead for 10 years on a phone that was released 18 years ago. And here are the specs according to GSM Arena. And hopefully you guys can see what this phone looks like. The phone doesn't even have a full keyboard, so you have to use an external keyboard, of course, only a 5-megapixel camera, Symbian OS 9, which when Symbian died wasn't even the latest version of Symbian, and 64 megabytes of RAM. 64 megabytes of RAM. Nowadays, if you try to sell a phone with 1 gigabyte of RAM, it wouldn't work on Android. I think Android system requirements require a little bit more than that. Even an Apple Watch or a Galaxy Watch has more RAM than this offering right here. And sorry, I want to read a screenshot off for you. So here he has, announced in 2006. So he's using 2006 technology, and it was released in March of 2007. So this was released before the original iPhone was released. Though the iPhone was announced in between September of 2006 and announced and released in March of 2007. The original iPhone came out in the summer. All right. So here are the specs here. Of course, you have this tiny, tiny screen, but I do find it interesting that you were able to export. And as you saw, he was able to show on a big screen, export video data on a cell phone to a display with 64 megabytes of RAM, only not even 1,000 milliamp hour battery here. And let's look at the GPU here. Of course, I heard that they took away graphic acceleration from the devices, newest Symbian devices, but this does have it. So I heard. I also saw a video where they were doing the BlackBerry, not 3D, but graphics acceleration. But I mean, let's see. We have a 332 megahertz CPU and a 3D graphics HW accelerator for the GPU, and the internal storage only 160 megabytes of storage, 64 megabytes of RAM, and it came with 128 megabytes of micro SD card slot storage. So assuming he was using only on device, that's about not even a gig of storage that we had to put an entire CAD program on there that worked, and it was easy. I'm gonna see if we can see anything here. Nothing. Okay, so those are the specs there, and then compared to even a modern smartphone, even say a smartphone from 10 years ago, smartphones are infinitely more powerful. Oh, today we're talking about the Nokia N95, which was running a CAD program. Like Blender. So this is the phone here, is running a CAD program here on his Nokia N95. It's called Blender Cito. There's a GitHub link there. But yeah, so like I'm saying, phones are infinitely more powerful than this. If we were to go to Vosis.com, and even computers, by the way, that's what I like using about. That's what I like about using. That's what I like about reading old cell phone reviews, because now we are stuck in the same applications. Like I said, I was reading a cell phone review, and I talked about this on podcast stream about, and they were talking about the top applications that they use as Reddit, Instagram, Google, or something like that. All web portals, all web clients. But back then, the internet was slow. It was expensive. And it cost money to use it. It was also slow. Data plans weren't extra. Cost extra. So of course, it was all about what you could do on device, what you could do on your phone locally. And of course, now we have, and I'm trying to do a versus comparison. I'm trying to see Nokia N95. Now we have more power in even old cell phones like the Samsung Galaxy S7. What's the Nokia N95's official name? The Nokia N95 is called the Nokia N95. Okay, I'm just checking, make sure that that it's called the Nokia N95. I can't believe they don't have it here. How could they not have it here? Let's see. Versus.com. So let's do, here we are in GSM Arena. Hopefully you guys can see this on the screen. This is I'm going to compare the Nokia N95 from 2006 with the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge from 2016. So Samsung S7 Edge. All right, so these are both flagship phones, 10 years apart from each other. Here we go. Let's go to the operating system. So we have Symbian 9.2 versus Android 6 to Android 8 running TouchWiz. And then we have doesn't even know what chip we have here, but we have 332 megahertz versus a quad core 215 gigahertz chip here, so infinitely more powerful here. And when we look at the storage on here, better camera, better storage, just better everything, obviously. And the sad thing is that we don't see these applications coming to Android devices. There's no Blender port for Android devices. In fact, when we go into the number one ranks, top charts in Android Google's Play Store, and I know I've gone through this before, but the top chart now is Timu, Threads, TikTok, WhatsApp, Instagram, Bluesky, ChatGPT, Snapchat, Cash App, Scoops, and Telegram. That's top 11. Each and every one of those applications, except for Snapchat, needs the internet to work. And of course, Snapchat's 99% of its functionality is used to connect to the internet. Now, of course, none of these applications, I believe, as applications, some of them did exist as websites. Actually, no. None of these applications actually did exist in 2006. And so, phone reviews back then were different. And when you go back and read them, you'll actually see that these applications, they were more advanced. I mean, if you're able to create a CAD application on 64 megabytes of RAM and about 200 megabytes of storage, why can't we do better today? We should be doing more on our phones today than we were doing 10 years ago, or actually even 20 years ago almost, from when that phone was released. But we don't even get to a true offline application. This is not an endorsement. I despise the company ByteDance. CapCut, which is number 13 on the top charts. And when we go to top paid, right, you know what you're going to get? So we have some applications where you go scan the skies and look at stars, astronomy, that's what it's called. But then you get down to watch faces and games, and that's really sad. We're over here having developers from Argentina developing great applications, a CAD application, something that's actually useful for an out-of-date operating system for a phone that no one uses anymore, that doesn't even work here in the United States of America. And instead of that, he's probably not even making money off of it, because even if you put ads in it, no one would be able to watch them. But here we have the top application is Timu and TikTok. We need to do better. Now, here's a Reddit comment that kind of summarizes what I'm talking about. I was reading through something about internet culture. And of course, I don't really understand internet culture. Maybe this would be an article. But C stage 6908. Sorry, C says, I agree. There's been very little technology advancement since then. TikTok, yes, but nothing groundbreaking. I'm still doing the same things on my phone. This is the key sentence. I'm still doing the same things on my phone that I was doing in 2013. Really, nothing has changed. Day-to-day technological life. 2011, things are transitioning from desktop to smartphone in the mainstream sense. Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok didn't exist yet. By 2016, all of these things were in full swing besides TikTok. Not much has really changed since. Exactly. Sure, you can do them faster, but if you were to go back in time, maybe even five years ago, or even 11 years ago, 11 years ago, back to 2013, if the same applications are probably still being used, just maybe you had a data saver application on there or something like that. And we're gonna get back to Reddit soon. We're gonna get back to Reddit soon, because this was actually the same take from Reddit. Now we have insane people over on Reddit, and we'll get to them later. But so let's go over to YouTube. And let's see what kind of tech reviews we have coming in here. Mr. Who's the Boss released a new video. I'm not going to react to his social media video. It's more of the same stuff. He did release a video about Google search and stuff like that. But, oh, wow! There's a new tech fails video that released 8 hours ago. Man, my notifications are broken. So if you guys want to talk about this, and then I promise you we'll get into our special Reddit story, and we'll talk about the Google Notebook LLM. It's going to be a great day. All right, so hopefully you guys can see this on the screen. Tesla Cybertruck. Uh-oh.
Cookie Run Tower of Adventures is officially available on both mobile and PC with Google Play Games.
Prepare yourself for 13 of the most embarrassing tech fails of all time. From the keyboard with 113 OLED displays inside of it.
Why? That seems like a huge power draw.
PlayStation's most expensive mistake ever in history, to literal global apocalypse. Starting with McDonald's, who, in one of the weirdest collabs of all time, went into partnership with IBM in 2021 to run a
That's not weird. I mean, that's actually smart. Automated drive-through lanes. I mean, the people there can barely hear you anyway. Of course, like the speakers are so bad.
trial of an AI-assisted voice ordering system at about 100 of their drive-thrus. Guess what happened when TikTok got their hands on it? Giving orders to the wrong cars, multiplying items, and I'm not talking someone walking away with a single extra chicken nugget. People were leaving with hundreds of dollars worth of nuggets. And I think the
Wow. TikTok ruining America again.
most embarrassing, and yet at the same time also the most we probably should have seen this coming error, giving people ridiculous combinations of products that any human would realize make no sense at all, like ice cream with ketchup and butter, or I really wish I was joking, ice cream with bacon on top. But hey, at least that
What? I'm pretty sure someone would actually do that here in the United States. Let's check. Ice cream with bacon. Here we are. Yep. Maple bacon crunch ice cream recipe. Yeah, that's a thing. See? Which is better than you in dreary old England.
That means the McDonald's ice cream machine was actually working for once. All while having the audacity to correct the pronunciation of its customers.
And that says it's caramel.
Like, huh? So yeah, McDonald's
Good for the robot, I guess. We don't want these people running around here saying caramel.
basically had to end the trial ASAP. But we got some pretty good laughs out of it. A pretty harmless 1 out of 10 fail. The
Well,
same
McDonald's lost money, so maybe give it a 2.
can't be said for number 12, though.
Uh-oh.
Because in 2005, an unknown Russian design company called Art Lebedev released a series of concept images for a revolutionary new type of keyboard. A keyboard called the Optimus Maximus.
Yeah, if some random Russian company just starts randomly giving out keyboards or selling keyboards, I wouldn't trust it. You know, you plug it into your computer. Oops, you have now a link to Moscow, and your computer's now used to DDoS Ukraine or something. Yeah, let's not take random Russian keyboards and just plug them into our computers, please.
Yeah, that's a pretty sick name. Where each individual key has its own tiny display. And that's kind of amazing because it means every single key can be whatever you want it to be. So let's say I get a little bored of the normal QWERTY keyboard layout. Bam. And it's kind of mind-frying just the power that this gives you. Every single key can be a letter, a number, a direct shortcut to a Photoshop tool, or your ultimate move in League. It's kind of like the MacBook Touch Bar, but useful. You could change your whole keyboard's language with one press, and there's even a programmable side panel which could allow you to fast swap between applications. Now, you might be thinking,
Useful.
2005? Surely that kind of miniaturized LCD display technology just wasn't there at the time. And you would be right. This was meant to be a concept, but people just got so excited by it that Lebedev decided this is our chance to do something big. We actually have to make this thing. They quickly realized that LCD displays at the time were too dim for what they wanted to do, so they decided to go with OLED, tech that wasn't really a big thing yet in 2005.
Oh, I didn't know you said 2005. Wow.
Especially in such a tiny form. Wow. Which means that as well as having to make this monster of a keyboard, they also ended up having to create their own proprietary miniature OLED display technology. Just
Wow.
so they could fit one of them under each one of these transparent keys, which they did by working with a Taiwanese supplier called iDisplay. And somehow
I should have just made it a big screen and then virtual, like one big long TV screen and kind of like hybrid touch. So that's clicky.
after all of that, they actually managed to ship a working product in 2008. Sadly, they got too caught up in the hype themselves. This company became so obsessed with achieving this goal of 113 OLED displays that they forgot to actually make the typing experience good. These keys have such high resistance that you're just tired after like a minute of using it. Oh yeah, and the thing was priced at $1,500
Whoa.
when it launched. So only a very small fraction of the people who first expressed interest actually followed through and bought.
I wouldn't really call that a fail. I mean, it worked. Sure, there was a trade-off, but you know, they delivered a product to market when they weren't even thinking about it. I called it a success.
The thing. I'm only going to give this a 2 out of 10 fail though, because there was a silver lining. Remember iDisplay? Well, they put so much time and effort into helping to create this mini under keyboard OLED tech that they decided to run with it anyway. And they were eventually purchased by Elgato, which is what led to the Elgato Stream Deck, which even today is one of the must-have gadgets for any streamer.
Really? No, I don't see one right now.
But not every story has a happy ending. Some of them have a nappy ending. This is Paul and Rachel Barron, who, after being completely unable to find a washable swim nappy for their son that was actually good and actually
Call it a diaper like a normal person. My goodness.
fit, decided to make their own. They started a company called Bow and Bell Littles, selling them on Amazon, and very quickly hit $1 million in sales. These guys were killing it. They were appearing on shows, they were being
Gel.
profiled by Forbes. But 4 years ago, possibly the absolute worst thing that could have happened.
Cool.
Amazon, you know, the nearly $2 trillion technology company, sent one customer a used diaper. And
How do you do that? Did someone return a diaper?
you bet that customer left a review. The diaper arrived used and was covered in poop stains. Nothing could have been more disgusting. These were not small stains either. I was extremely grossed out. Now, this sticky situation was nothing to do
Look at the passion fruit company back there.
with the Barons. This happened because the person at Amazon responsible for checking returned products before sending them out to new customers did a pants job. But the worst part of this is after the Barons saw this review and they scurried to tell Amazon that it wasn't their fault, that it could very heavily damage their business and to take it down, Amazon refused. And the Barons were right. This one review did completely tank their business. 4 years later, they're now $600,000 in debt, including a loan that has their house
They should sue.
up as collateral. It's only after Bloomberg published an article about the whole debacle that Amazon finally agreed to take the review down. But the damage was already done. So 4 out of 10 fail.
4? They should get like a 5 or a 6.
Made worse by the fact that it wasn't even these guys' fault. So if you ever find yourself in the market for a washable swim nappy, now you know where to go. Maybe don't return it after you've used it.
Okay, we've seen all sorts of laptops over the years. Super high-end gaming laptops, super affordable $400 laptops. But what on earth does a $100 laptop?
Yeah, and when you think about these laptops, aside from games, what do you really do on them? Like, I don't really see any new applications here being developed for, offline use. On these, I just, see browsers and stuff like that. I mean, one of the newest popular things here is to like develop some browser company and then say, are you tired of Chrome or whatever, and then get your money. I mean, it's smart, but I don't really see anything new happening in the computer world on terms of applications or anything like that, which is really, really sad. But let's see what the $100 laptop is, which, I mean, if you think about it, I was reading a review of some laptop from like 2006, 2007, had less power than my phone, or even less power than a phone from a few years ago, which would be now $100. I think it's possible.
Well, in 2005, the founder of the MIT Media Lab, Nicholas Negroponte, formed One Laptop Per Child, a non-profit whose goal was to transform education in the developing world by creating and distributing as many devices as possible to children in schools. And the device that was going to change children's lives, the XO, a quirky little green plastic laptop.
Hey guys, you know what this reminds me of? The EduLink from Adventures in Odyssey. Except, EduLink had satellite connectivity and actually worked.
Designed to be produced as cheaply as possible while still giving disadvantaged kids access to a computer. And this thing had a lot of thoughtful features packed into it for its tiny cost, especially considering this was 2005. A hand crank that would allow children to power their device even if they didn't have access to an electrical outlet, which means that the device ran on a tiny fraction of the power of probably whatever you're watching this on. And that
if we should get one of those things and start cranking up our computers.
That was crucial to allow kids to use it outside of school. The screen could flip around to turn it into an e-reader. The thing was made of shock-absorbing plastic and rubber, a feature that Negroponte clearly very much enjoyed showing off. A rubberized spill-proof keyboard, as well as all the ports being covered by the Wi-Fi antennae when closed, all with a logo in various colors so that kids could tell their laptops apart. And the absolute
Smart.
core of the whole thing was that the device ran on a Linux-based operating system, giving kids total access to the computer. The organization...
Yeah. Why? Well, like, what do they need to be doing with the computer? I mean, it's probably just going to be used to like distribute books from maybe like a central server or something like that. Read, write, math.
Actually managed to gather so much steam that they were even offered free macOS licenses by Steve Jobs himself.
That's wild. I mean, macOS would have been terrible for this underpowered hardware, but that's wow.
That never happens. But Negroponte turned them down just to keep the system as open as possible. All this for only $100. And they didn't even want to stop there. We really believe that we can make literally hundreds of millions of these machines available to children around the world, Negroponte promised. And it's not just $100, it's going to go lower. If you're thinking this is all too good to be true, good instincts. And people started to pick up on this when the crank broke off at the live demo.
That's sad.
Not a great start. And by the time the laptop actually came out, a lot of these promises had just mysteriously vanished. There was no crank, although I guess you can kind of see why. It wasn't as durable as promised. The SSD only had 1 gigabyte of storage. The screen was terrible.
1 gig? Again, they probably won't be storing much on there, but still.
Terrible. And the worst part of it was this whole project was geared around this being the $100 laptop. But even with all of these quality cuts, they only managed to get the launch price down to $130, which then went up to $180.
Oof, almost 100% price increase, which is, obviously not a good thing. You have to cut. So you're going to buy 50 laptops, now you can only get 25.
In the next revision. So by the end of this, all the critics were convinced that the money that had been put into this project would have been far better spent on things that people in developing nations actually want and need, like, better schools and clean drinking water. 4 out of 10 fail. Now, do you remember this little guy?
Ooh.
This, alongside the Humane AI pin, were literally supposed to be the next step in the evolution of personal tech. After
I don't know why. Piece of junk.
The smartphone, thanks to something called the Large Action Model, an AI system that can not just talk to you, but also perform actions based on what you say. Like, for example, communicate completely on your behalf with flights and hotels to book your entire holiday.
That would have been the greatest app of all time. There's no reason you needed to release this.
From just you saying a couple of words, which excited enough people to make $10 million in the first 5 days alone. But spoiler alert, no one would ever trust it to do that, because the Rabbit R1 sucks. The battery sucks, it requires its own SIM card if you want to use it on the go, and this thing suffered from some major security vulnerabilities from launch that Rabbit basically ignored. But the most fundamental, it wasn't needed. Everything this thing does can already be done completely on your smartphone, as well as a whole load of things that this can't, which led...
Like, take good pictures. Though, I do like the periscope camera. You can... Oh, it's blocked off. Never mind. I was going to be like the Inno tab, where you can kind of flip the camera around. You can take pictures of the ceiling, so that's nice.
A lot of people to ask the question, sure, the teenage engineering design device housing does look really cool, but shouldn't this just be an app? Well, turns out it actually is. Android authorities...
And unfortunately, they didn't release it out to people.
Ramen managed to download Rabbit's launcher APK onto a Google Pixel 6a and got it to run the entire R1 experience, which really does make this device the final boss of this meeting could have been an email. And in a similar vein of companies biting off more than they could chew, oh my God, you know Hewlett-Packard or HP? If so, in all likelihood, it's because you've used one of their PCs in your school computer
Hey, I am using one right now.
room or the library because they're affordable and they do the job. They're not exactly the company you think of as the front runners of consumer technology. However, in 2011, 1 year after the release of the iPad, HP decided it was their time to shine. They wanted to take on Apple with the HP touchpad. And HP weren't...
Oh, I thought it was like a touchpad, like the Apple touchpad that they sell, because people like the MacBook touchpads a lot, like a mouse alternative.
stupid enough to just try and beat Apple at their own game. They promised something different. Because their
That's
tablet
smart.
used the Web OS operating system, built on the same tech as a lot of web browsers, the touchpad promised to be a more open and customizable experience than Apple's walled garden approach, while also maintaining some of the style and flair that Apple's known for, which I think
I like
is
to see how the works in real time now. WebOS is now a TV platform, by the way.
Fair to say it was lacking in most Android devices at the time. And because WebOS was based on common web technology, it was supposed to be super developer-friendly too. Now, this was a very expensive move because HP had to acquire Palm, who made WebOS for, close your eyes, $1.2 billion. So I'm sure everyone at the company was just praying that this would pay off. Oh God, there is absolutely no competition between how slick and intuitive the iPad interface is versus this. The touchpad was pretty universally recognized as a much slower, much clunkier, and significantly bulkier iPad. Nobody wanted this thing. And you know what?
Sad. Just so sad.
What makes it particularly embarrassing? The HP was already worse than the original iPad, with it being so buggy on top of everything else. But to finish it all off, by the time this touchpad had actually come out, Apple had just launched this, the iPad 2, which absolutely decimated the thing. This product was performing so poorly, both in terms of sales and customer experience, even after slashing the price by $100, that HP literally took it off the market after only 48 days. They even had to refund retailers for the stock they'd purchased, practically soiling everyone's perception of the whole company while burning through a hell of a lot of cash while they were at it. 5 out of 10. Now, for number 7, we actually have to go all the way back to 1988, before the World Wide Web, if you can even imagine such a thing. We're talking about a time where only 60,000 computers across fewer than 20 countries were connected to the internet, which was only used by universities, research centers, and government bodies. But then
I wonder what kind of sites they use, because that's another thing I want to talk about, like how we're not using hello, Elijah. Hopefully Alabama wins. Alabama better win. Let's check the score. Alabama Clemson Tide. Alabama's winning. Okay, that's good. That's good. So yeah. I was thinking about like all the websites and stuff like that they were using back then. Now I only visit like a few websites, Twitchy, let's go. NTB. Remember, we're returning back to NTB in what? Oh guys. So next week's podcast episode will be the week that it will be and then it will be a week that we return to NTB on Friday, November 1st. Maybe we'll change the song to the national anthem. Who knows? So, back to the internet, World Wide Web, 1988. Let's go.
November that year, a malicious self-replicating worm program was released from a computer at MIT. And 24 hours later, 6,000 of those 60,000 computers had been infected. And let's be very clear, computers in very important places, including major universities like Berkeley and Harvard, and even NASA.
I wonder what those computers were doing, though, because like we heard that they always were used for math and science and stuff like that. But if I try to look up for math and science programs, I don't really see much. Of course, we have Desmos and GeoGebra, but that's just it's a graphing calculator. Like, is that it?
The worm used a backdoor in the email systems to get into these computers, which wasn't very hard. Computers at this stage, they were not ready for internet trolls. And while it didn't destroy any files, it rendered those systems practically unusable. Emails were delayed for days, and functions at vital institutions, including, by the way, the military, were blocked, leading to all sorts of key infrastructure having to either wipe their systems or take them offline for over a week in an attempt to rid themselves of the worm. We are talking up to millions of dollars of damage, with obviously the potential for much bigger consequences. Here's where it gets really interesting. Seeing the damage it had caused, an anonymous programmer admitted to 2 friends that he was the one who'd created the worm, but that he hadn't intended it to spiral this much out of control. He asked one of the friends to send an anonymous message across the internet, which included both his apologies and instructions on how to remove the worm, but ironically, few people actually saw this because of the extent of the network damage. The other friend went to the New York Times to try and do some damage control, telling them that the worm was meant to be a harmless experiment, but accidentally revealed the programmer's identity by, well, it wasn't very smart, using his initials, which were easily searchable at his university. So, the New York Times found and outed the culprit, 23-year-old Robert Tappan Morris. And then the FBI got involved. They quickly launched an investigation and found plenty of incriminating evidence, which was used to prosecute him in 1989. And the reason this was so momentous is that Morris was the first person to ever be indicted under US Congress's new 1986 Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. The silver lining, though, this was the wake-up call for global cybersecurity. Only a few days after this attack, the US Department of Defense set up America's first computer emergency response team in Pittsburgh. And now that they've woken up, here is how Bitdefender's new Scam Copilot, our sponsor, can help you to avoid the same embarrassment. So, this right here.
Finally, in October, due to a software as an issue can get claims. Just this year, just been one
Lets you check just about anything else that might look a little dodge that you're concerned about interacting with. Link below to get yourself the Bitdefender Scam Copilot.
Now, at least the Morris worm issues were resolved in the end, though. The Tesla Cybertruck, on the other hand, has just been one continuous rocky road of problems. Ever since its very inception, where the bulletproof windows smashed during a demo to show how bulletproof they were. But who would have thought that that wouldn't even be its biggest issue? Because now the thing's actually out, this thing has been recalled 5 times.
No, it hasn't. It's not really a recall. It's a software update, not a recall. So, you know, it's different for electric cars. Now, speaking of electric cars, and let's get into this. I was thinking about this today. Electric cars, they're nice, but remember I had that viral post about how you can't carry a gallon of water up a store, a gallon of electricity up a hill, but you can carry a gallon of gas, and people were freaking out and stuff like that. Well, with electric cars, the problem with this is electric cars, even if you believe that we need to switch to electric cars to save the environment from carbon or whatever, right? Let's just grant that, right? If you have an electric car, they have immense amounts of problems. First of all, granting that you believe that electric cars, lithium, it costs more for the environment. Second, mining costs more for the environment under this belief. Second of all, electric cars, they're hard to do for resale. So let's say you have a car, 2015 Tesla, and then you sell it in 2021. That's been about 7 years. Well, for those of you who own smartphones may know, electric cars have lithium batteries. Lithium batteries degrade over time. So, of course, you guys know that. And if you want to buy a used electric car, you have to come with the fact that battery may degrade, that the battery's probably degraded over time, and you have to replace it. And you're like, fine, whatever. You can replace a battery on a phone for like $200, $300. Can you do that on an electric car? No, you cannot do that. On an electric car, it can cost up to a third or even half the price of the car when it was brand new. So let's say a Tesla, the cheapest model Tesla is probably like $25,000 to $30,000. An electric car battery replacement can be $10,000 to $20,000 in fees, which you already bought the car used, so it's probably cost $20,000. So you just bought a whole brand new car just by replacing the battery. Now, when we talk about the battery, another issue is that it's very heavy and it tears up the roads. And that's not a problem with the United States infrastructure, of course, because electric cars have only been coming into fruition for 20 years. Now, before you guys correct me, yes, electric cars did exist in 1906, 1907, but then Henry Ford created the Ford cars, the Model T, and we decided to use gas smartly, which makes the most sense, especially back in the 1910s. So the roads were designed for cars that were not as heavy, and if everyone switches to those, we'll have to pay billions, maybe trillions of dollars to fix the roads that are broken and cracked under the weight of electric cars. And if you live in a coastal city, which electric cars are the best of cities because, the infrastructure, of course, isn't there for electric car charging stations. You go out. Also, cities where it's most populated, and some of the most populous cities are, close to the water, or, will get flood damage and hurricane. Think, just all of Florida, Houston, Texas, some of the major cities in Los Angeles, maybe some earthquakes there as well. So, and of course, New York doesn't really get floods or stuff like that, but they do get snowstorms. When the floods and water comes in, you have, storm surge coming in 10, 15, 20 feet. Guess what happens to the electric cars? They blow up. They don't explode, but the lithium battery, because, the hurricane brings in water from the sea, which is salty, gets in and gets short-circuited and things of that nature, and the cars doesn't work anymore. You have to pay for a new battery replacement on top of, car replacement. It gets wet as well. So, we probably shouldn't mandate legislate electric cars. But let's get back to the Tesla Cybertruck.
Just this year, January, for a warning light font size that was too small. Not something I ever considered before, but absolutely a real danger. Thankfully, they managed to fix this one remotely with an update. April, for a dodgy accelerator pedal, which could dislodge from its pad if pushed too hard, getting stuck on the throttle, which if
Dang, that's oof.
You think about it, is as bad as an issue can get on a car. In June, Tesla had to issue 2 recalls on the same day because of faulty windshield wipers. I mean, who would have guessed that the Cybertruck's bizarre single 4-foot-long wiper might not work perfectly? It was failing due to excessive electrical current, requiring the entire motor to be replaced, and then one for the sail applique, the long strip of plastic lining on top of the sides of the bed, which was poorly installed on some vehicles and has fallen off in at least 2 cases, creating a road hazard that very much has the potential to be deadly. And then finally, in October, due to a software issue that delays or prevents the rear view camera from showing you its feed.
Well, that's not good, especially since the tint is high. So you need to have that. Also, rear view cameras have been mandated in all cars in the United States since 2018. It's the law.
Result, over 27,000 Cybertrucks have been recalled. That's basically every Cybertruck ever made. And as of July the 8th,
Tesla has also been offering free motor replacements.
they said it's not dangerous to drive with the old one. And they haven't officially called this a recall, but given that so far the Cybertruck has given people all the confidence of a wet paper bag with wheels on it, I don't know how many people are going to believe that. This smells like a 6 out of 10 fail to me.
And now we're in the top 5. Now it just goes from bad to worse. Have you heard of Concord? I'm going to guess you haven't, and that's part of the problem. See, Concord is a video game that should have gone gangbusters. It was a hero shooter, one of the most popular genres in gaming history. It was developed by ex-Bungie staff, you know, the people who worked on the very successful Destiny 2. And
Never heard of that either. So, you know.
it was a PlayStation Studios game, meaning that it's published by PlayStation themselves. And refreshingly, it was going to be a one-time $40 purchase with no battle pass or microtransactions. So what could go wrong? Well, as soon as the first trailer dropped, people immediately lost interest.
It's fine to me.
And that includes me. I was watching the PlayStation event live when they announced this, like,
What did I just see?
sure, we love a good hero shooter, but ever since Overwatch exploded onto the scene in 2016, the entire industry has just been pumping out clones of that game that basically do nothing new. So we're at a stage now in 2024 where people are very fatigued of the genre.
What's the name of that game where you have to shoot paint and then cover the most area? Let's see. Game where you and I remember, I think they did something on eCades, Elevation Church, or something like that. Paint Brawl, maybe that's what it's called. It's an app game, apparently. Let's see what it's called. Paint Brawl. Let's see if I'm right. Images. I'm not sure if it's Paint Brawl. Might be, though. Oh, yeah, I think it is. Yeah. Oh, it's from Brawl Stars. Is Brawl Stars that game where you have to, like, run? They also played this game on eKids during COVID. Where you have to run all the way to, like, the finish line with all those people. You can fall off a lot. No, that's not it. Fall Guys? I think that's what it's called.
Genre. But that's far from the full deal, because the character designs were boring and
They look fine to me.
also particularly aesthetically unappealing, which sounds silly, but a genre like this actually needs players to want to look like the heroes they're playing as.
Okay, that makes
Especially since this entire genre revolves around unlockable skins that you want to be desirable to keep players playing. The 70s sci-fi aesthetic just wasn't resonating with kids who were born 30 years later, let alone the fact that it just made the entire world look like a knockoff Guardians of the Galaxy without the charm. And arguably the biggest problem, Sony really failed to market the game at all. Like, this first trailer was 3 months before the release.
Wait, it got released 2 months ago? Huh, never heard of this. And I sometimes read those gamer, magazines and stuff. Not a lot, but I do like to read. Maybe add like a 5th website to my repertoire.
Of the game, which is probably why you've never heard of it. Even so, I don't think anyone expected just how badly this game would perform. Concord launched in August 2024, and want to guess how many concurrent players that it had at its absolute peak on Steam? To give you an idea, Counter-Strike 2 has nearly 2 million players. Concord? 697.
Wow, that's a fandom right there.
And you know what makes it many times worse? Concord's been in development for 8 years. And you might be thinking, well, surely that means the game's going to be good. And according to reviews, it actually was at least fun to play. But what happened 8 years ago? Overwatch. This thing is so clearly yet another copycat trying to cash in on the genre, except unlike games like Paladins or Valorant, which have their own twists,
What's Paladins?
this game took so long to make that it's both completely missed the hero shooter hype window while being based on the Gen 1 product that in itself is now outdated. I mean, Overwatch 2 is already out now, and even that is struggling. But the single most embarrassing part of this misadventure is that Sony saw Concord's paltry player numbers and decided
Overwatch? Let's see. I want to see what he's talking about. So guys who don't know what Overwatch is, this is apparently it. It's a free-to-play, always on, always evolving live game. Team up with friends, regardless of platform, regardless. I can play this on my N95 Nokia. Let's see what they have it on. I don't know what Battle.net is, but has it on a... Is that what it is called? Internet subscribers, people? No? Must be like a desktop application or something. Wait. Battle.net, Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, Steam. So obviously not independent of platform because I don't see Android, iOS, anything like that on there. But so that's Overwatch, what he's talking about there. So let's get back to the video.
that instead of giving this game a chance, trying something new with the marketing, like, I don't know, just off the top of my head, telling people the game existed, that they would shut the servers down forever after 2 weeks of them being live. They invested a rumored $400 million into...
So does that mean people can't even play the game anymore? It's sad. Like you pay $40 for something, or all of 700 people pay $40 for something, they can't even use it?
Developing this thing, which would make Concord easily PlayStation's most expensive game ever. Even The Last of Us Part 2 only cost them $220 million, although there...
Wait, I thought The Last of Us was a movie. A TV show.
There are other rumors saying that this was closer to 150 million, but either way, surely it was worth just risking a little bit extra just in case they could scrape some of that back. Easy 6 out of 10 disaster here. That didn't sound good. And now you can just get ready to lose all trust entirely in the ability of big companies to actually look after you, starting with the Snowflake hack. So, Snowflake.
Speaking of hacks, some Chinese, D-bot, robo vacuums got hacked, and they ran around and started screaming racial slurs to the people. That must have been really fun. They just have your robot vacuum do that. All right, moving back.
Is a high security cloud storage provider with over 9...
Wait, Snowflake? No, we did Qubit, not Snowflake. Never mind. I was gonna say because their logo, their colors reminds me of Qubit, which was the company we reviewed a few years ago.
1,800 corporate customers, including giants like Santander, Ticketmaster, and AT&T.
Never heard of Santander.
So all of these massive companies will store their customers' private data using Snowflake. And all 3 of those companies were affected when a hacking group compromised Snowflake in April. The hacker group, who call themselves the Shiny Hunters, which is another name for people who spend hundreds of hours in the Pokemon games searching for rare shiny versions of them, got straight into the company's Snowflake accounts, stole the data in them with the intention to sell that data off. They used info-stealing malware programs to infect systems not owned by Snowflake themselves, but likely devices owned by Snowflake's customers, companies like AT&T, who would often save their Snowflake login credentials on their own devices too. And honestly, this hack sounds like it was a whole lot easier to pull off than actually finding a shiny Pokemon. People need to remember that storing your data in a locked down server is fantastic, but it doesn't mean anything if the passwords to access that server are literally sitting on your desktop. Your security
makes sense.
Is only as good as the weakest link in your chain. And yet these fruitcakes didn't even enable 2-factor authentication on...
That's sad. What a fruitcake, as he calls them. Or pumpkins, or pumplets.
Their machines. And the impact has been bad. The hackers got away with 1.3 terabytes of personal info from 5...
How? That's also an issue on Snowflake's part. How did they not... Like, you shouldn't be able to download... Well, I'm not sure. Maybe it came from different people, but that's a lot of downloading happening at the same time.
160 million Ticketmaster accounts. It's including full names, addresses, email addresses, phone numbers, even payment card data, which they are selling for $500,000 on Breach Forums, a notorious cybercrime platform that they own.
AT&T. Poor Gel.
was hit even harder with info from, I quote, nearly all of their tens of millions of customers stolen, including which numbers those customers interacted with, counts of the texts and calls, and total call durations for specific days or months, the info from which absolutely can and very likely will be used to scam them, with tools on the internet also allowing you to find the names connected to those numbers. And this is the funniest part. AT&T has reportedly paid the group Shiny Hunters $370,000 to delete
how the AT&T hack happened.
the data, the only proof of which comes from a video of the Shiny Hunters clicking the delete button, as if they aren't a criminal organization who hasn't already made a backup. I'm cringing just thinking about it. 7 out of 10 fail. So there's been a bunch of cyber attacks in this series, but when your network is down because of a hacker, you can at least blame it on them, even if it exploited a vulnerability that you should have fixed. However, you know what's a lot more embarrassing? Is when you brick your own tech, let alone basically everyone else's. Do you remember in July when it felt like the entire world had a sudden IT crisis? Well, that's because of CrowdStrike.
Ooh, CrowdStrike, I remember that. Now, let's talk about that. So these things at the mall, you know, those like little mall sign things, the touchscreen. One of them was broken, so it was showing a Windows boot screen, maybe in the BIOS or something, which I find to be really, really weird. It could have been because of CrowdStrike, could have been because of something else. But don't you find it weird that we use Windows for literally everything? Like people talking about how the computers were affected, included like the computers that show the plane arrival and departure times. What on earth do you need a full Windows computer for? Like this would be a specific OS or maybe just Linux, I'm not sure, that can handle just display to monitor tasks or show a map or touch. Windows is really big, and I know there are some applications that are useful for it, but not gaming, but not just gaming is what I'm saying. But like, why is it in everything? That doesn't really make much sense to me. But let's get back to CrowdStrike.
Cybersecurity company who makes products to protect Windows. And get this, over half of Fortune 500 companies rely on them. This is not a small potato. Get this, over half of Fortune...
I thought this said Saudi Arabia. I'm like, wow, an entire country.
500 companies rely on them. This is not a small potatoes company. However, on July 18th, CrowdStrike pushed a minor update for one of their products called Falcon, which is a cloud-based AI-powered malware protection platform, and it wreaked absolute havoc, sentencing some 8.5 million PCs around the world to the infamous blue screen.
I mean, look at these. Are you telling me that a computer really needs to, a Windows computer really needs to show arrival and departure data?
Yeah, I'm talking banks, TV stations, airlines were down. Like Delta alone had to cancel around 7,000 flights. Basically everyone who used Falcon. Hospitals were canceling non-urgent surgeries, and even when stuff was running, it was often because people had resorted to doing things by hand, like this handwritten boarding pass for a flight in India. In certain parts of the US, even the emergency 911 number was down. And it's all because Falcon's little update, which happened all the time to keep up with new malware threats as the company learns about them, installed code onto people's Windows computers containing a logic error, which caused the devices to crash since they couldn't compute the impossible logic. And because the issue was happening on what's called the kernel level, i.e. accessing and editing the entire underlying system, not just the surface level stuff normal apps have access to, and because it was also a bootstrap driver, meaning it was required for the system to boot up at all, it was
that makes sense, yeah.
like the perfect cocktail to lock those PCs into an endless recovery loop. Fortunately, the fix turned out to be pretty simple. Just boot it into safe mode and delete the files associated with the problem. But because of how embedded it had become, in a lot of cases it required an IT professional to have physical access to the machine, meaning that recovery was slow for many organizations, with the disruptions causing a total of not millions, not tens of millions, but $5.4 billion in direct losses for companies. But this one is straight up bonkers. So Marina 1 was the US's first interplanetary space probe. It was designed to journey to Venus, equipped with various scientific instruments to allow it to record data. Spoiler alert, it didn't get there, and you're not going to believe how embarrassing the reason is. The thing was supposed to fly past Venus and use these sensors to collect data about the planet, keeping in contact with mission control for about 15 weeks total. But after all of the work that was put into designing and constructing the craft, which was composed of over 54,000 components, disaster struck. It successfully lifted off on July 22nd, 1962, flying nearly 100 miles upwards for 3.5 minutes until suddenly, randomly, it veered off course. So much so that they had to issue the self-destruct command to avoid a collision with ships in the North Atlantic. The reason it happened, though, the hardware was absolutely fine. The culprit was an unbelievably easy-to-miss software error. A standard R was used in one equation when it should have been an R with an overbar. And the reason that's so important is that
I wonder what kind of operating system or code it was using.
the guidance computer on board that's making sure the thing is on track is constantly checking in with its sensors. And the bar on top of the R is the symbol that makes sure it takes the average of those sensors instead of just taking one reading at face value. So without the correct R, the probe basically started to overcorrect its course in response to outlying data points that it should have been ignoring. The project cost them around $192 million in today's money.
That's not, that much money.
All thrown out the window because of a single typo. I mean, what's the most damage a typo has ever caused you? Could actually be pretty bad now I think about it. 8 out of 10 fail. The only slight saving grace being that they'd also already constructed Marina 2, an identical probe. And because the fatal problem was a completely avoidable human error, they fixed it in about 4 seconds. And Marina 2 was launched successfully just a month later, and was the reason that we now know Venus rotates in the opposite direction to Earth. But nothing beats the Y2K bug. Whoa. If you were born after 2000, this one's probably going to sound too insane to be true. Do you remember when everyone thought the world was going to end in 2012? Because that was the end
Oh, I was 6.
of a 5,000-year cycle in the ancient Mayan calendar. Well, there was something just like that for the year 2000, only this one was grounded in the much more real fear of a tech apocalypse. Because it turns out that when complex computer systems were originally designed in the 60s, computer scientists figured that they'd
to do what?
save what pitiful storage and screen space that they had by using a 2-digit number for the year. We were very much in the 1900s after all. Years beginning with 18 were old news and 20 felt like too far away. The problem is, as the years ticked up and we got ever closer to the new millennium, people started to wonder, are computers actually going to understand that 00 means 2000, not 1900? And you might think that the only real consequence of that would be waking up on New Year's morning thinking, hey, that's funny, the clock's just gone back 100 years. There were real reasons to be worried, because as you've seen with the Marina, small miscalculations with the input of a computer can have major consequences with the output. And in this case, industries that relied on computer-tracked dates could be affected in huge ways. Like banks, which track interest daily, could potentially suddenly calculate interest at minus 99 years. And places like
They'll give you free money. Let's go.
power plants, which track routine safety checks of things like radiation levels, could pose a threat to human life if these checks were missed. People even started panicking that planes might start falling from the sky and that people's pacemakers would just stop. That old Uncle Joe would just collapse and die the second that you go from 1 to Happy New Year at your party. So,
how?
Governments raced to avert a potential computer crisis, rushing to update anything and everything to a 4-digit date. And I mean everything. I don't think anyone quite expected just how much would be spent on this. You know how some companies in this fails list have lost hundreds of millions? Here, an estimated $200 to $600 billion was spent to tackle the issue. And that's in the 1990s. And when you think about it, that is a catastrophic amount of money
Billions of dollars
to burn, considering that it could have been avoided by a few computer scientists typing 2 more characters. 9 out of 10. Thankfully, the steps taken did avert widespread chaos, but the few issues that did still occur proved that the worry was warranted. For example, on January 1st, 2000, many computers did think they woke up in 1900, forcing 15 nuclear reactors across the world to shut down. Some people who did, in fact, incur 100-year bank loan interests, and hilariously, one customer at a New York video rental store who was handed a bill of $91,250. Yes, for having rented a movie for 100 years. Catch you in the next fails video.
All right, so that's great, guys. And you know what's even more of a fail? Reddit. Well, it's not a fail. I mean, they make money. They make money. But let's go over to TheTechBoy.org. And I'm going to pause the screen here so you guys can see it. Oh wait, nope, it's not up there. See it? All right, now you guys can see it. And let's start the cam. All right, so we're back, guys. Hopefully you guys can see this on the screen. Google Notebook LLM. I imported SSA LTW into there. You might be thinking, well, you know, that's good. That's a great thing. What does Notebook LLM have to do with Reddit and the cesspool of idiots over there? Well, the people on Reddit, cesspool of idiots, and they're all trying to. There we go. The people on Reddit, cesspool of idiots, and they're all trying to compete for this cesspool of idiots award. Okay, and this guy, he decided to waste the goodness of Google. He decided to waste their technological prowess. He decided to, burn carbon. I mean, he killed a tree essentially with what he did. Instead of uploading something edifying and smart like SSALTW into here, it was some writer who was up there. He was scared that, get this, Project 2025, and he uploaded there, and then he started chatting with it, and then he was like, "Oh my goodness, it's so scary. It's bad. We're all gonna die." And maybe I can bring up the article. And he wasted Google's processing power. I mean, it was a ridiculous thing, and all the other editors, clapping and applauding and yapping along with him. And I was like, this is really, really dumb. But this inspired me to upload Google my SSA LTW series here and do a test on it. So let's see. I'm probably gonna have to not even be able to show it on the screen because this guy is insane. Probably use a bunch of words. Yeah. So here we go. Oh yes. See, it was just posted on the RBARD program, and he subreddit, and it's actually on now Gemini, but they can't change it. And he uploaded it. He got on the news. Oh no, he didn't get on the news. He just linked to source it here, and he sourced it here. And he had, can you see it? No. Okay. Where is it? Ooh. The Google Notebook LM actually has changed. This is actually smart. Great. But here's the Reddit thread here. So here it is. He posted here, and honestly, I think the post is decent. But I'm going to stop sharing screen because now I'm going to read some of the comments. Here we go. He says, yes, the poster is an idiot. He does confirm his idiocy in the comments. Just says this system. So, cesspool of idiots, he wins the cesspool of idiots award. Alex the kid says, this is, oh yeah, I did respond to this. So you can see this on the screen. Yeah, he says it's sickening, and he said that's why people should read it. And now we can see if something's in the document or not. Blah, 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 blah. Womp, womp, cry harder. So, and we have some more stuff here. And they go into this, and they show some really great stuff. They show some really great stuff here, and then they start coping and crying and whining about it. So yeah, they wasted Notebook LLM on this technology. I was reading the comments, and I was like, these people. And I'm telling you, if I have to hear about this one more time, I'm going to be like, are you insane? I mean, people, are you okay? Do you want a teddy bear? But anyway, let's get to SSA LTW. A lot smarter than these people, a lot better than these people. So as you guys know, SSA LTW actually was really helpful for this. It actually found some errors in the text. Apparently it might error it. So it's not scriptural, people. But speaking of SSA LTW, just from a general standpoint, we have that is a problem with Notebook LLM. So as you can see here, there is no chat anymore. So I guess if this guy wants to come back and go read his sad, pathetic story about how it's going to take over the world or whatever, he has to go back and ask the same questions again because Notebook LLM appears to delete the chats after they've been chatted with. But oh no, after they've been chatted with. But I inputted 67 pages of chat GP of the story in here. And then I imported the most recent story. You can go check it on ssaltw.blogspot.com. And let's just ask some questions here. And it did a great job. So here is Notebook LLM. It was not able to find the jokes in the series, which is really, really sad because the jokes in the series are really great. We'll do a new episode about of that. So where were we? New episode. Oh yeah, we'll do entirely separate episode about that. And Samsung Google Notebook LLM is a great tool. So make sure you guys check out this article and go read about that by yourself. All right. Where were we? Oh yeah, so that's Google Notebook LLM. We'll do a special question and answer demo video soon online on stream. So GSM Arena is a great website. Also, what's it called? Tom's Guide, all these tech review websites, great websites, but haven't you guys felt that you're reading the same websites every day? Some of the websites have like some of the same websites every day. And of course, you hear about how there's vast stuff on the web, and there's so much to do and so much to learn. And I found some new applications that I want to tell you about that have kind of aided this. Now, they aren't using the full processing power of the device, but they are able to use the internet to find interesting facts for you. Most of them are correct, at least. So I'm going to tell you what some of these new applications are. All right, there we go. Phone's unlocked. So the first application is called Facts. That's just what it's called. It has an icon. It's a blue icon, and then it's a light bulb on here on screen. Oh, the dynamic range is not good. There we go. It's the blue application. And you just swipe through it kind of like TikTok. It does have ads in it, unfortunately, and they're not good ads. Next week, I'm going to show you how you can block internet access to specific apps, for either security reasons, if you feel like your keyboard is tracking you or whatever, and you don't want it sending data. Of course, you'll lose some features like Grammarly or anything like that, or some of the AI features. Or if you just want to block ads in some apps, you can just block internet access. I don't think you can block internet access on this app because it has to go and download the facts, so I'm not sure. So I'm just going to swipe through. You swipe through it, kind of like TikTok. You actually learn stuff. You're a lot smarter. A hummingbird's heart beats over 1,000 times a minute. Fingernails grow nearly 4 times faster than toenails. A giraffe can clean its ears with its 21-inch tongue. And then you can keep swiping. You can share the facts. You can heart the facts. And then it will play a 5-second video ad on there. And then let's get to Wikipedia. There's an app called Wiki Random, and you can just click a button, and it will show you random Wikipedia articles. You click a button, and then it will open it in Edge, which is a really interesting, whatever your browser is, which is a really interesting thing. It's basically like Wiki World app for your phone. Now, there was another application that did this, but it opened it directly into the application, and you could save and bookmark Instagram applications. Now, the Facts application does send you notifications. So at 16:49, so yeah, like 2 minutes ago, it told me that convincing you slept well tricks your brain into thinking that you did. So it does send them every hour on the hour. Though they don't come back. And if you miss a fact, you can swipe back down, but technically it goes up, so you can see what it's talking about. And there is a paid version, but it's really expensive, $20 a year, and you'll get categories, and I guess you'll not get any ads as well. Hopefully there's no ads if you pay $20. because yeah, I just get general facts, a 5-second ad video. I'm waiting for the ad to leave. All right, there we go. So the ad is gone. So of course you can favorite yours, your own fact, your collections. And you can select specific ones, like there's some internet facts that you can either go premium or watch an ad for them. So interesting applications all around. Now, speaking of facts and swiping applications, I forgot to get into this article from last week. Hopefully I can put it up on the screen. Teens really suffer notification overload. They really like Reels. I just really find it interesting how Reels can actually popular among teenagers, because when you go into Reels, and let's go over here. Unfortunately, YouTube Shorts doesn't really work for me because I don't have YouTube history turned on. So my customization and stuff like that isn't as good as it is after they switch the update. But when you go into Reels, I'm going to mute this just in case copyrighted music comes on up. Let's see what we get when we swipe through 5 here. So we have some women talking about microphones and some motivational video. Okay. Also, one of the reels was literally someone's face and talking about forgiveness or whatever, but it was just text and then their face, and had thousands of likes and millions of views. And then we have someone writing a paper that's on fire. I mean, it's interesting, I guess, but I mean, would you really watch this for 20? What was that? Like I hear, like in this article, we hear that teens are on Instagram and Reels and TikTok and stuff like that. I mean, when you see the most apps here, we got Facebook, Instagram, stuff like that, TikTok, on there 6 hours a day. I mean, you got to get better. So the next thing is obviously bait. It is so obviously bait to get comments, and then I guess maybe she'll become, yep, she's verified, so maybe she makes money from this. It says, quote, if you're a single girl and you love Jesus, of course, you're not spelled correctly, but whatever, drop your name and state and age in the comments, guys, respond. And then in the background, it's, honestly, I don't know what she's doing. We're going to show this on the screen. So profound. And when we go into here, we have, ooh, good grief, almost 3,000 comments. So yeah, very, very, very useful. Then we have an ad from, actually the ads are actually pretty useful. I actually learned stuff. There's some new AI powered tools and techniques that I learned here. And then we have, of course, the common thing of random movie clips. Right now we're looking at some Ratatouille movie clip. And then there's some caption that some person comes up with by himself. No, real interesting content right there. Better than TV. Watch 6 hours of that instead of, I don't know, watching some Netflix television show. All right. Let's see what else of the phone, tech reviews are on the internet. Android 15 did come out. It's nothing special. Wow, a line of code crashed AT&T's long distance network. This must be like a long time ago, but that's wild that there was code behind the landline system as well. Let's see what we have here for tech reviews. So GSM Arena did release a tech review about Samsung Galaxy S24 FE. Actually got pretty high marks, even though it has different chip and slightly larger bezels and a slightly worse camera. It did do better in a review than the S24 Plus, basically saying if you can have this or you can have the Plus, if that full price, something for the FE and $1,000 for the Plus, go with the FE. It's the same screen size, just slightly smaller bezel, slightly smaller a slightly worse camera, but still pretty good overall. Still has Samsung DeX. S20 FE was one of my favorite phones of all time. I never owned it, but I really wanted it. I mean, it was basically the S20 Plus without the time of flight sensor. They sold it for like $600 in 2020. It had Samsung DeX on it too, and Bixby. I mean, honestly, probably one of the greatest phones of all time. Had thanks Bixby. Had the Microsoft. Micro SD card slot, which unfortunately hasn't come back yet. Okay, that's a take. All right. The iPhone 13, sorry, 15 was compared to the iPhone 16. That was really interesting. And yeah, that's it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode. I'm gonna stay live until. Oh, I do have one more thing. I'm gonna stay live until 5 o'clock. Over on Reddit, I was taking some screenshots. Too bad I don't have the Pixel screenshots application on here. I mean, I could get it if I wanted to, but it doesn't work. It doesn't do anything. But can I sort by screenshots in the Samsung Gallery app? Yes, I can. So I took some screenshots. Let's see if I can pull it up. September, August. Oh yes, there were a bunch of. I'm trying to find all the dumb people on Reddit again. So there was this thing going on about Reddit about the people online talking about the kids teachers are talking about how they were using Gen Z language in their texts, which and trying to talk to each other, like in real life, not text, but talking to each other. And the people on Reddit, the kids on Reddit, are teenagers or high school. They were very mad about that. And also another thing, apparently there's this whole trend of, oh yes, I found it. When was this? What month is this? August, of the French teacher from Reddit. So allow me to read you some of these things. Mini billboards. What? Okay. Oh yes. So there's the French teacher meme thing. We don't have enough time to get into this, but there was tens, dang, of screenshots of this thing, like dozens of screenshots. So maybe we'll get into that later because it's not happening right now. Who's this? Oh, yeah. So hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. It is 5 o'clock. God bless. Tech. Talk to you later.